welcome to Seeing 3D. I'm your host, Ramelio. And on today's episode, we will be reviewing the collapsing Rengoku katana designed by Play Art 3D on Coach 3D. Link in the description below. Here is the finished product. It's a beautiful katana. Spoiler alert, I did 2 of them. And as you can see, they collapse. This is the very first review we're doing on this channel. So basically, I realized in the 3D print community, there's a lot of places where you can go to post your designs. You got Coach 3D, you got Thingiverse, you got Etsy, so on and so forth. So there's a lot of people out designing 3D files, STL files. However, there's not a lot of people actually reviewing these files. Basically, the reason I wanted to download this, my little niece and nephew, they say they wanted a sword. I collect swords. I have a bunch of them. They wanted a sword of their own. And I said, well, I guess I'll just 3D print you one. First, let's take a look at the website. So you got Play Art 3D. So far he has 28 designs, 5.5 thousand downloads, 76 likes, and 1.1 thousand followers. So he got a pretty good following. Again, this katana is Rengoku's katana from Demon Slayer. If you don't know what Demon Slayer, I highly suggest you research it, take a look, read the manga, watch the anime, whatever you like. So on this 3D model, he designed actually 2 of these 3D models. He did a print in place design, and he also did an assembly design. See, on the actual website, he has minimal instructions. However, once you download the file, he does have more instructions. The katanas are between 95 and 99 centimeters long, depending on how far you push the blades. This is printed in PLA, and actually I did mine in PLA plus on a 0.4 millimeter nozzle. And yeah, let's get to the review. So once you purchase the file, you would then be brought to a RAR file that you would then have to extract. After extracting the file, there'll be 6 files that you will have. You'll have a assembly version and a new method version. So what I decided to do was first print out the assembly method, and then before you print out anything, make sure you go to the new method folder and then click on the readme, which are the instructions. And since we're talking about instructions, let's go ahead and get to the first part of the review. On the instructions, of course, he has some instructions on the website, very minimal instructions on the website. Once you download your file, then you get the README with about 2 pages worth of instructions. So on here, he has 2 methods for actually printing this file. He has the first method is you print out the blades, and once you print out the blades, you can paint them, sand them, do whatever you want with them. And then you'll print out the hilt. So when you print out the hilt, what you'll have to do is pause it on a layer. You'll have to find which layer when you're slicing it. He had to pause it on layer 1170. I had to pause mine on layer 1172. But on here, he gives you very good instructions on how to pause it. He describes, of course, printing out the blades first, then printing out the hilt. I have a Bambu, so I didn't have to change the G code to pause it. But if you have a Creality printer, like one of the 2 over here, he goes into detail on how you can pause it, how you can set the G code to pause it on your printer. The first thing I did was set up my file for printing the blades. Again, I used a brim. However, on his instructions on the website, it recommends using a raft. Bambu does not have settings for raft, so I went ahead and just used the brim on the inside and outside. The first thing I did was set up the blaze, and then I also did a plate for my hilt. And on this assembly version, I just went ahead, since Bambu, I have an AMS, I went ahead and colored the hilt white, orange, yellow, and red. And you can see that here, but again, I didn't want to go and paint anything. I just wanted to, have my AMS do the work for me. If you don't have an AMS, then what I suggest you do, like the instruction says, print the blaze first, then print the hilt. The blaze you can then color before the hilt is done, and then once the hilt is done, before the hilt is done, as said on the instructions, pause it, of course, put the blaze inside, the painted blaze inside, and then you can go ahead and paint the hilt. And then method 2 is just you going on here and manually pausing it yourself. So, these instructions are pretty good. However, what I like to see is more detail on exactly what settings to use while slicing the file. How many walls, how much infill, the infill percentage. So what I did was I wanted everything to be uniform. Of course, there's 2 different files. As I said, you got the assembly version, then you have the print in place version. So what I did was, since they didn't have instructions on the infill and the number of walls, so I set my walls to 3, and I changed my infill to 15%. And that's what I did for both blades. So overall, on instructions, again, since this is instructions for both, I'm gonna give the print in place version and the assembly version 2 different ratings. However, the instructions are the same for both. So overall, I'm gonna give him a 4 for instructions. And the reason I'm gonna give him a 4 for instructions, he also has on here a blades print test. Theoretically, you could use that, print that out, and try different settings. So that's why I ended up giving him a 4. Like I said, ideally, I want to see more settings on actual slicing the 3D file. But however, that's what I'm here for. So overall, like I said, on instructions, I give him a 4. Next, we'll talk about printability. Alright, so again, there's 2 different files you can choose from, the print in place version or the assembly version. I went ahead and did the assembly version first. What I did was set up the 3D file for the blaze first. Went ahead and printed the blaze first as described in the instructions. And once the blaze were completed, I thought about possibly painting it, but again, I want this to be a review where I'm just printing out the files and just reviewing it for you all. So I just went ahead and left it alone. I didn't sand, I didn't paint anything. But actually printing out the blaze was pretty simple. I used the brim on my blades. He suggested using a raft. Again, Bambu does not have the raft, so I used the brim. But mine stuck fairly fine, very fine. I had no issues with them falling over or anything like that. Put them all together first, like that. And I should be able to sling this. Let's see how it works. Ah, nice, nice. I think that deserves a double take. All right, yeah, I'm liking this already. All right, so basically they go like this. On the second part, I'll be printing the hilt, and I have it pausing, I believe, at layer 1170, I believe. And once it pauses, I'll come in, place this on the inside of the hilt. Then I'll continue the print, and we'll see how it looks once it's complete. See you in a bit. On both versions, as far as printability goes, they were both fairly easy to print. Of course, the assembly version, you have to first print the blades and then print the hilt. And then you'll either have to set up your G-code to pause it or manually pause it and then go and insert your blades. Of course, the print in place version, I mean, that's just simple. You just set up your slicer, press print, and your printer does the rest of the work. So for printability, I give the print in place version a 5 out of 5. However, I give the assembly version a 4.5 out of 5. over design. So here is an example of the Rengoku katana from the show Demon Slayer. Alright, so this is a exact replica of Rengoku's katana. Only difference is this is a mini katana. See the hilt. However, this is a full tang battle ready katana. See, it has the flames. It even has the writing on there. The hilt. So this is how the katana is supposed to look. And here is the printed version of the Rengoku, collapsible Rengoku sword or katana. As you can see, they both look identical. Again, I did not paint the blades, however I could. Now I will say the one thing I do not like about the design is I wish he would have made a design for the actual flames on the blade to make it easier to paint. Other than that, the design is again identical to the Rengoku katana. The second thing I don't like about the katana is, so this is the print in place version, this is the assembly version. So in the print in place version, you have a flat tip. And again, that's because once you print it, this part is directly on your bed, okay? However, with the assembly version, because you're printing the blades standing upright, you can have a pointed tip. So I like the pointed tip a lot better than the flat tip on the print in place version. However, the print in place version, of course, is a lot easier to print, even though it wasn't that much more difficult to print the assembly version. So as far as design goes, I gave the print in place version a 4.5 out of 5, and I gave the assembly version a 5 out of 5. Let's talk about functionality. The functionality will be different depending on what you're printing. So these items were meant to be for fun. This is for, I guess, kids' enjoyment or people's enjoyment in general. It's just made to have fun and to be a replica of the Rengoku katana. Of course, like we talked about in the design section, I think it does represent Rengoku's katana from Demon Slayer, and it's fun to play with. I mean, I can't lie. Just tossing these things out and collapsing them again is fun. Sometimes I get a little stuck. But yeah, I love these things. I love this design. This is something I would highly suggest, purchasing and printing out if you like to fidget with things or if you have young kids. So with the assembly version, when I printed the blades, I was, playing with the blades, raising it and collapsing it. I did it probably about 6 times. And the top blade, this one, actually came off. It detached from the rest of the set, from the front. So I had put it back in, and this was before I combined it and put it inside the hilt. This is why the hilt was printing. So I went ahead, put it back in, and I did it a couple more times, and each time I did it, it kept coming out. So what I had to do was take a heat gun and heat this second blade here. That way it'd be firmer around this top blade. So I did have to take off points for functionality on the assembly version because of that. However, on the print in place version, I probably raised it, 15 to 20 times now, and so far the blades have stayed intact. So I haven't had that same issue with the print in place version. So I highly suggest if you print this file, if you print the file and you do the assembly version, just make sure you check to make sure this top blade will stay inserted. I would say to raise by gravity, throwing it out like that. I would say to do that approximately 10 times just to make sure it doesn't come out. And again, if it does, all you gotta do is take a heat gun to that second blade, to this second blade, and you should be fine. Since I put a heat gun to it, I haven't had any issues. But I highly suggest, before inserting it into this hilt, that you test it, okay? So for the assembly version, because of that one issue, I had to give it a 4.5 out of 5. Other than that, like I said, it functions very well. I haven't had any other issues with it. For the print in place version, I gave that one a 5 out of 5 because I haven't had any issues with the print in place version. I mean, I set it up on the slicer, printed it out, no issues whatsoever. Overall, for both katanas, for the print in place katana, for printability, I gave it a 5. For design, I gave it a 4.5. For instructions, I gave it a 4. And for functionality, I gave it a 5. For overall score of 18.5. For the assembly version, for printability, I gave it a 4.5. For design, I gave it a 5. For instructions, I gave it a 4. And for functionality, I gave it a 4.5 out of 5. For a total score of 18. So on the ranking system, as Franco would say, this is a super print. Super! Overall, the Collapsing Rengoku Katana by Play Art 3D is a super 3D model. I highly suggest, if you're a fan of Demon Slayer, if you have kids who just enjoy swords, and again, he has multiple katanas. If you go on here, he has Ichigo's katana, Tanjiro's, Zoro's, just Zenitsu. He has a multitude of different katanas on here, and actually, I may print that Zenitsu katana next. It looks pretty cool. But he has a multitude of collapsing katanas on there, so I highly suggest, if you're an anime fan or you have kids, to go ahead and take a look and purchase one. Personally, I like the assembly version better. I know the assembly version had a 0.5 lower score than the print in place version. However, with the assembly version, I like the fact that you have the pointed blade, and then 2, that you could print the blade out first, paint it, and then insert it into the hilt. And then if you have an AMS, you could have your AMS print the hilt out in different colors, and then you have your katana fully painted. As far as sanding, honestly, I don't think it needs to be sanded. Again, I did 0 sanding, and as you can see, I'll show you the hilt came out very nice, and the blades as well, no issues. And again, this has not been sanded. I did spray this one with a clear coat. Other than that, that was it. If you want to see one, the print in place version, I did nothing to it, and this is how it looks. No clear coat, no paint, anything, no sanding, anything. So I highly suggest these. Both of them was easy. If you just want something to play with, go ahead and print out the print in place version. If you want it to look good and play with, I highly suggest doing the assembly version. Well, that's it, ladies and gentlemen. I really appreciate you guys for checking out the channel. If you stayed this long, comment down below who's your favorite Demon Slayer character, or who's your favorite anime character in general. Also, if you have any 3D files you would like for me to review, comment that down below as well. I hope you guys have an awesome day. I appreciate it. Come see me when you're ready to see in 3D. Peace.